Hi, I'm Sally, and you're listening to some wise words from the Event Planners Workshop. Today, I want to talk to you about site and venue management. I've got some notes here because there's things that I don't want you to forget about, but I just wanted to share some different things with you today that you need to look for when you're doing your site inspections. Now, the reason I emphasize site inspections is because I highly encourage you to get into the habit of doing site inspections. Now, we can't always get to site, we can't always physically get to the location that we need to get to. It might be in another state, it might even be in another country. But in this day and age, I can promise you that you can get there virtually. And even if that is a matter of calling the venue, speaking to the sales director or the person who is engaging with you in this process of choosing this venue, and asking them to walk around the venue with their phone camera. It's as simple as that. You can, if you're a venue, you can obviously get someone like, there's people who can come and do what's called a Google walkthrough for your venue. So when I look for it on Google, I can literally walk through not literally, I can virtually walk through your venue and see what all the different rooms are like by myself. But at its core, it's really helpful that you get to see the venue for real. Now, if the venue that you're looking at booking won't do that for you or can't do that for you, it might be worth reconsidering whether that's the right venue for you. But let's say you have done a request for proposal, you've received all of these proposals in, and now it's coming down to choosing the venue and which one is the right fit for you. So to be able to do that, you need to come up with some sort of criteria that you want that are necessary for this venue to be the right venue. And of course, as you know, I will go straight to the audience. So the most important consideration is, what does the audience need to be able to receive the content that you want to portray to them? If you are sharing multiple streams of content, for example, you might need multiple rooms. If it's a one-way conversation, you might need just one big room where you stand on stage and just have a one-way conversation with people. The technology is important. Think about what technology is included in the venue, what technology you might need to bring in yourself. The other thing to think about is whether the venue has a technology provider that they prefer you to use. Now, a little note here is that you're not legally required to use providers that are already in-house in the venue. That's as it stands right now in 2020 in Australia. It might be different where you are, but in Australia, lots of venues have in-house providers, in-house AV providers, audio-visual providers, and they may recommend that you use those providers. And that's hugely beneficial because they know the venue. They know the venue inside and out. They've worked in there a million times. They know what the right light is. They know where the microphones need to go. They know everything about the venue. They've worked in it thousands of times. But if you want to bring your own team in, let's say you're someone who has put this event on in lots of different places and you have your own AV team on board and you want to bring your team in to work in this particular space, that's okay. So don't ever think that just because a venue has an in-house audiovisual team, or any other team for that matter, other than catering, that you need to use them. You don't. You can use your own team. So a quick couple of things that I want you to think about when you are looking at your venue choices. Transport. How do people get there? Is it easy to get to? Is there plenty of parking? If there's not parking, is there public transport? If there's not public transport, can they easily walk to the venue from somewhere where there is public transport or where there is parking available? Make sure it's really easy for people to get to. What do the foyers and people transitioning spaces look like in the venue? Is it really easy for people to get in and out, or are you going to be creating massive queues in inappropriate spaces, having people stand in the sun for long periods of time, for example? I remember working on an event where the client didn't want the audience to come into the venue for quite a period of time before they were ready. The venue this was in didn't have the required amount of space for these people to be milling around. And it was a pretty exciting event. It was a high profile person that people were really eager to see. And it was unallocated seating, which meant first in, best dressed. So of course people turn up hours and hours early for that. But the unfortunate side of that was people turned up early and had to wait outside. Middle of summer, outside the venue, no bathroom facilities, no cafe facilities, no water facilities. So the client hadn't thought through that process, unfortunately, with their audience. So they hadn't thought about the audience in that process. So just think about that kind of thing when it comes to queuing and how people are going to wait to come in, how they transition in and out of your event. And what type of seating is required. And this often, again, comes down to the audience and what activity are you expecting them to do. So you've got different types of seating, theatre style, banquet style, cabaret, workshop, classroom. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. And a quick tip, the difference between banquet and cabaret, the easiest way to think about that is, if it's cabaret, I'm watching a show, which means that 1 or 2 seats at the front of the table that I would look through to the stage are empty. So cabaret, let's say a table of 10, banquet would seat 10 people all the way around the table because they're all talking to each other. It's a banquet. If it's a cabaret, which means I need to look at the stage, I might put 8 people around a table so we can look at the stage. The other thing to think about, particularly in this day and age, is the venue contract. Now, look very carefully at the contract, make sure you read it, understand what you are signing up for. These contracts are very hard to cancel and get out of, so make sure that you are very clear about the terms of the contract, what the deposit timeframes are, what happens if you cancel, whether you can get your money back, how much can you get back, and when, what are those timelines. So make sure that you keep that in mind as well. So a few things to think about with your site checklist. So come up with the minimum criteria that you need. How many rooms? Does it need to have audio visual in-house, or can you bring it in? Do you need to have food and beverage on site? Do you need to have free parking available, or can people catch public transport there, or is it paid parking? Again, think about your audience. Will they pay for parking? Other things to consider is obviously the size and layout and whether the venue has the infrastructure requirements that you need, and is that included in the price. So just a couple of things that I encourage you to think about when you're choosing your venue. The venue I suggest is, I think it's on my list of about number 8 or 9 things to consider when you're planning your event. If you would like me to give you a venue checklist that has some general things to consider, drop me a note down below and I can email that to you quite easily. And it's a really handy checklist that will just get you thinking about all the different things that you might need in your venue. So I hope that helps. This is the Event Planners Workshop. I'm Sally, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.